This is one area where I would like you to learn from the mistakes we've made and to take advantage of the things that we've been able to figure out. There is no one best way to price. It's both art and science. We're going to do the best we can here to tell you the methodology that we have discovered works best, has been the most profitable for us. But if you have any questions, please let us know. Send us an email, call us. We'd be more than happy to help you with your strategy. There are work pages that go with if you want to take a moment to get those in front of you. In addition, in the Consultant's Approach training and that manual, we have some ideas also for pricing. And while there is no one hard and fast rule, there is one area that I would say across the board you need to avoid, and that is trading time for money. Recently, I spoke to a consultant, not a part of our network, I'm assuming pretty soon will be, who went out on their own. They got one 20-hour-a-week client, and they were just thrilled. Not long after that, they got another 20-hour-a-week client, and they were overjoyed. They had an ongoing 40-hour-a-week work week. Then they realized all they have is a 40-hour job with a salary, no benefits, and not the freedom to do the things that they set out to do when they hung up their own independent shingle. I want to try as best we can to get everyone to avoid that. We need to think about what our annual income goal is, however, and by that I mean fully loaded. By fully loaded, think of your annual income goal and multiply that by 1.3. That allows for benefits, that allows for your taxes, that allows for you to cover all of those other things. In order to do that and have your salary, quote unquote, you have to allow for that additional margin, and I call that 1.3. So if you wanted to make $135,000, you'd multiply that by 1.3, and that equals $175,000. We believe standard hours that you can be consulting per year is 1,400. I would take that 175 and divide it by the 1,400 hours. The rest of that time allows for vacation, for downtime, for strategic thinking, for business development. You're not getting paid for those things while you're doing it. They lead to the 1,400 hours of engagement time. So do not figure on having the full year's allotment of hours only on the hours in which that you can deliver. So that's $125 an hour that we need to be building into our proposals. Now, I talked about not trading time for money. This is just the foundational number. We have to know what that starting point is. Anything you bill less than $125 an hour, you know you are losing money. Anything you bill more than $125 an hour is that value added that you can bring to a client and your increased profit margin and income opportunity. In addition to you, are you using anyone else in support of your client engagement? As you look at those resources, how much of that is you? How much are you using an outside consultant? Is there anyone else in your business that is helping you? Do you have any administrative support? They need to also be worked into this equation. And you'll notice I have an on-site and an off-site rate. It's one thing for you to get into a car, drive 4 hours across town, and spend an hour in your client's office. That's on-site an hour, but it's taken you 5 hours. It's another thing to be sitting in your office and spend an hour with no travel time on your client, because that hour now really is an hour. I know this might be confusing, but take a moment to think through those things before you price your engagement. What other costs and people time are associated with this? In order to build your proposal, and you can go through the proposal writing and presenting section as well, you're going to have had to create the implementation, the actual steps of what you're doing. Take a look at what has to be done and who is doing it, putting their rate in there as well. If you are looking at doing a project and you are not sure of the time involved, make your best guess and do not give the client the benefit of the doubt here. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. It's always going to take a little more time to get it done at first, the first couple of times you're doing it, than it will after you have become experienced at delivering client engagements. So as you've developed your deliverables for your client, this links closely with the writing and presenting proposal piece. Once you have that built, now you have a good idea of the costs associated with the human capital portion of this delivery. Next is, what are the expenses that you're going to incur? I have a couple of rules of thumb around this. Obviously, it is your business, not our business, so you can figure out how you want to handle your expenses. In our proposal, we always put we'll bill expenses at cost after the expense has been incurred. That means I will carry the expense portion until the client has been able to make sure those expenses are reasonable. That gives the client a tremendous amount of confidence that I will not be spending his money unwisely, and we will be looking out for her best interest, not looking out to pad our expense report. So that's one of the things we do. Just as a footnote, we really only bill for out-of-town travel, for hotel, for travel miles away from the office or our home base. And if we're traveling out of town, when we bill for meals, we don't bill for lunch. We certainly never bill for any alcohol or any entertainment. It's only about what's necessary to drive that engagement. One footnote is, I really personally do not like to send invoices that's time lost in sending the invoice, and it does make us look a little bit cheap when we're invoicing for things like at 1 day's parking. So anything like that, I tend to understand what those expenses might be up front, and then I place them in the proposal so I do not have to send individual invoices and account for things that may make me look cheap. Once you have an idea of how to build your total dollar value, I call that our cost. That's your cost. So if you're billing $125 an hour and this is going to take you 10 hours, so it's $1,250, that's your cost. What I'm going to ask you to do is to think about this value-added mindset that we have used for years, and that is, what will the market bear? What will the situation allow us to put in there? Do they have other options? Or is this a commodity sale? Do they clearly see the benefits? Am I the person best suited to do this? Will my consulting drive such extraordinary results that it's worth a premium? You have to think through all of that and then multiply your cost, in this case $1,250, times 1.1, 1.2, all the way up to 1.5. If it's a commodity sale, we bill it at 1.1. If it's in strategic in nature, we're absolutely the best alternative. We're going to drive a result beyond anybody else. We'll take our costs and we'll multiply it by 1.5. That becomes our proposal price. A couple of things I would like you to think about. And one of the key ones here is this. We tend to undervalue ourselves. So be very careful as you're writing your initial proposals of thinking you may be charging too much. I would like you, as you present your proposals and you gain new clients, to pay attention of how many times price is an actual negotiating or talking point. What I have learned is that if people do not question the price, you frankly did not charge enough. It is critical for you to determine your value add and what you're bringing to the table, and to cover your costs in your initial total, and then add to it the value that you bring. Do not assume that your costs is your final pricing point. If you have any questions about this, this is one of those areas that is difficult for everyone to get started. Let us know. We'll certainly help you develop your own individual pricing strategy.